your friends. Up in the hills where the party never ends. Your schemes and your dreams when you're whole and you're broken. I'm telling all about it in my words unspoken.
Welcome to Words Unspoken, the Hills podcast, paying tribute to the reality show that aired on MTV from 2006 to 2010.
We are two Southern sisters rewatching The Hills in 2016 and chatting about it weekly for your entertainment.
My name is Susan, and I'm a 30-something photographer who hates most reality shows but loves The Hills. I have been rewatching the show for a few months.
My name is Jem. I'm a professional in my 30s who hasn't seen the show since it originally aired, so I'm really looking forward to reliving the magic again 10 years later.
We watched the first few seasons of the show in real time when we were younger versions of ourselves, and we are so excited to revisit every episode from our new points of view. The episode we are talking about today is episode 2, season 1, A Change of Plans. And this episode begins in the Hillside Villas. Lauren and Heidi are discussing the party from the night before.
Conversation goes as if there has been no talk about it since the party crashing, and they cannot look each other in the eye. It is an extremely laden moment of awkwardness where they're just kind of looking away from each other but still having a conversation. And Heidi says, "You didn't get fired, right?"
And I know that she seems very not apologetic at all. To me, it's like she's like, "Oh, whatever."
It's like she could hardly care less whether Lauren got fired or not, and is just asking out of barely their politeness.
Absolutely. Instead of being like, "I am so sorry," because she even made a joke out of it when she said, "Yeah, some of my friends just showed up," and she's like, "Oh, who would do something like that?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah. Not really funny."
Yeah, not a funny joke at that point in time, especially because at this point, Lauren doesn't know what is going to happen to her. All she knows from Lisa is, "We'll talk on Monday."
So then we go into the Teen Vogue offices where Whitney and Lauren discussing what happened, and you can tell Whitney's a little nervous that she is going to get in trouble since she was the one who let in Heidi and the friends.
There's a sure sign of distress at the beginning of this scene because the girls start out talking to each other saying, "You look really cute today." Long awkward pause. "So do you." Just things that the girls that age tend to say during times of disaster. That's when you know times are really tough, when it's just kind of like a, "You look really cute today." Pause.
Yep, that is a classic moment. At this point, Lauren doesn't know what's going to happen, and I think Whitney's just hoping that she won't rat her out. So then we transition to Jordan and Brian playing basketball in the park, and they have a lovely conversation.
This will be our first PG-13 rated moment podcast history, which is an extremely long and storied history. But the boys have some conversations talking about Heidi being all over everybody and all these jokes about her being too friendly, and how she was in the wrong at the party by talking to this other guy. And apparently this guy, Jordan, the boyfriend, is an overly jealous, ridiculously overreactive person. Let's be honest, most guys his age probably are. They haven't been properly taught about how to handle these kinds of situations, and they don't have a lot of confidence in these situations. So one minute they're talking about Heidi being too friendly, and then the next minute they're talking about having a threesome, including Heidi and I guess Lauren?
Yes. The lovely Brian asked Jordan if he's ever asked Heidi if they can have a threesome with Lauren. And I actually think that Jordan was kind of like, "Why did you just say that, dude?" Like, I think he kind of laughed it off. I think he was, "Why did you just say that? That's really awkward." So I do give him props for that. But anyway, they definitely have a very male-centered conversation. And I wrote in my notes, "Gross boys, go away." So anyway, then we get back to Teen Vogue, and Blaine tells Lauren, "Lisa's ready to see you in your office." Ominous music plays. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
That's not the actual music. That's just my interpretation of it.
It was pretty ominous. And they're talking about, wanting to hear Lauren's side of the story, which I think is a very open-minded thing to say instead of immediately attacking your intern and telling them what a terrible job they did and completely just lighting into them. She at least gives her a chance to kind of explain what happened on her end. Quick fashion note, Lauren was wearing a satiny kind of lingerie spaghetti strap top with her pearl necklace and jeans. How many times did we go out on the weekend dressed in that exact same outfit, Susan?
If we were not on an audio podcast right now, I would be showing at least 20 to 30 photos of us dressed exactly the same way. Definitely.
We were just apparently so original back in our day. Oh, and remember the part where Lisa shut the door? The camera is positioned outside her office door. She peers out into the hallway and looks both ways as if to make sure, nobody's looking or watching. And then she just sternly shuts the door and then the conversation starts, which is hilarious. So for 1 second, I thought there wouldn't be cameras in the office during the grilling, but suddenly there were.
Well, as you know, since I have actually been rewatching it, that did not shock me because I knew that was going to happen. But that is definitely what they were trying to portray, which is just foolishness, really. Of course, there were going to be cameras for this most dramatic moment, which, to be honest, Lauren does not handle well at first. She kind of freezes up. And I wanted to be like, what was she doing in the day leading up to this? Shouldn't she have been getting her strategy in order and deciding what to say? And she kind of freezes and doesn't know what to say. I mean, she does not rat Whitney out because she does say, oh, someone must have let them in, whoever was out there. So it's not really calling Whitney out because I'm sure there were several doors.
I'll tell you, I do have to say that I'm very impressed with Lauren in this scene because she does not lie to Lisa. She admits fault with whatever, she had to do with it and admits that it was her friends, but she does not throw Whitney under the bus, which I think is very admirable. If Lisa had pushed her and asked more questions, then eventually, she would have had to tell the whole truth, but I just thought that made her a really great friend and coworker that she didn't just immediately jump onto using Whitney as her scapegoat. That was a really admirable moment that not many 19-year-old women would utilize during moments of distress.
Oh, absolutely. I agree. I was impressed with that too, because definitely I think a lot of 19-year-olds would immediately come up with some kind of lie. But I also thought Lisa was way nicer than she had to be. She just seemed more, oh, I'm disappointed in you than angry, which I thought was nice of her because it's pretty much specifically what she told her not to do. I thought she was very nice.
And when Lisa originally gave Whitney and Lauren the warning about their job, she said something about, if you misbehave, you're gone. But can we just take a moment to chuckle over what Lisa actually said as her most stern admonition when she was like, I really do not approve of any alcohol or substance abuse by anyone at all. That to me was so funny and kind of misdirected because that's not really what was going on. It was more like Heidi was let in with her friends illegally and made a big scene and had a tearful fight with a boyfriend. And I just thought it was funny how Lisa was referring to it as alcohol and substance abuse.
Well, remember, Lisa also got all this information secondhand because obviously Blaine went and told her what was happening because he saw them and he saw that they were drinking. And I think that's what she was referring to, the fact that Jordan and Heidi probably wouldn't have fought except they've been drinking. So I think that's what she meant. But I did think that was funny too. It made me chuckle. She was making a stand on TV.
And her parting words were, while I'm gone, behave. And that's it. And then she dismisses Lauren from her office.
I think she got off pretty easily.
Oh, very easily. It could have been much worse.
So then we head back to the Hillside Villas and shockingly, Heidi is at the pool.
Where she basically lives all the time. Poor Heidi. Sad life.
I know. And she calls Audrina.
P.S. Heidi is always calling Audrina at work. I feel like Audrina has better things to do than for Heidi to be blowing up her phone all the time, her desk phone, and for all these random people who we will talk about later to be wandering into her office. Poor Audrina, she's just trying to work.
So Heidi calls Audrina. Once again, Audrina's at work and does not have time to accept phone calls, but obviously Heidi does not care, and they're chatting aimlessly about who knows what. I can't even remember anymore anymore. It was so boring. But the thing that stuck out to me was she's like, why do you work all the time? And Audrina's like, I work every day from 9 to 6. And I was thinking, like most people except Heidi, apparently.
This is the moment where Audrina really stands up for herself. And I think it still sounds super passive and quiet, and it's said in a little Audrina voice. But the power behind the words when she's like, I work every day from 9 to 6 is just a reminder to Heidi that she's basically being a huge jerk by acting like she doesn't know what Audrina's doing when she calls her.
Yeah, and just bothering her at work is just ridiculous. But anyway, that's when they decide to go to the nightclub that night, the brand new LAX nightclub, and Heidi throws something in there about, Brian's going to be there, kind of coyly. And Audrina's like, interesting, but that's all they really say about that. So then we go to the LAX nightclub, and as they're walking in, Lauren's telling them the story about being scolded by Lisa. And no, she didn't get fired, but that she did get in trouble. And once again, Heidi does not care.
All Heidi has to say about Lisa is, I don't like that lady. And I'm thinking, maybe because she didn't invite you to her party and you crashed it?
Okay, that actually makes me feel better, because I thought that was Lauren saying it, because the cameras were so far away you can't really see faces. And I was like, Lauren just said that about her boss when she knows she can watch it later. So that makes me feel better that it was Heidi.
Another moment of nostalgia for us, if we can just take a minute, when they're showing everyone standing in line and waiting to get in, and it's this long drawn out moment. All of the girls are shivering in their halter tops and in their spaghetti straps. And I very clearly remember, and I fully admit to going out and definitely not wearing any kind of a jacket, any kind of a coat. And it gets chilly out there and at night. It's not like, the dead of winter in our part of the world, but it's still cold at night out there. And the girls are absolutely shivering. And Heidi ends up having a coughing fit during the indoor scenes in the club. So as a very grown up and mature person now, all I'm thinking is those girls need to get some jackets on. And then now look, Heidi's gone and made herself sick. So I was being all matronly watching that scene.
Or you're very old.
I am super old.
Did you notice Jordan's dumb hat?
Ugh, I can't even. Wasn't he wearing a hoodie? Was it a hoodie?
No, it was like a hat, like a knitted hat.
Oh, like a tobogganish.
Yeah, I hated it. I'm like, I hate him.
Yeah.
Well, I just got the season 1 DVD recently and realized as I'm looking at the pictures on there that Jordan and Brian are actually part of the main cast based on the photos on there. And I'm like, wow. And I really barely remember them. So that's something to keep in mind. They're on the covers of the DVDs.
I don't think things worked out that well for them, though. The DVD covers are probably the highlights of their lives, unless we find out something to the contrary later.
This is actually where we find out that Brian is an aspiring actor.
Because he's tall. It's his only hope.
Jordan, let's talk more about Jordan and how jealous he is. Obviously, we've already realized he's jealous. But Heidi gets to talk to Brent Bolthouse, who is a very important person in the entertainment industry and the club scene. And she gets an interview with him, and she's so excited. She comes back and tells them, before she even comes back to the table, Jordan's like, where is Heidi? And everyone's like, where's Heidi? You can tell he's looking around like, she better not be talking to a guy. And the first thing he says to her is not, congratulations, that's so exciting. Is he single? Really? Really?
Because that makes a difference if your girlfriend is going to cheat on you.
Absolutely, Jem. And
please note that one of the boys, it had to be Brian, because Jordan was wearing a stupid hat. Brian is wearing the Argyle sweater with the button down, and he has the sleeves rolled up. This is something that today a dad would wear to like a daytime office holiday party, but was de rigueur for boys of that age in those days. And I was just thinking how funny it was that kind of, preppy style was in fashion for boys back then. And now if a guy wore that out to a bar on a weekend, it would just be odd and peculiar.
Well, let's stop and think about that for a minute. You know why? It's because the Jordans and the Bryans of the world are now the dads of the world.
That's really terrifying.
That might be the most terrifying thing ever.
Does this mean we need a new segment of our show where we talk about the most terrifying moment? What something that happens in the hills means for the future, which is where we are today. I'm scared. Moving on. So Heidi and Bolthouse chatting at the bar, which, P.S., did you notice Brent Bolthouse was totally at the door when they were trying to get in earlier? Just standing boredly at the door, being Brent Bolthouse. And then Heidi returns with the big news. And then as they're discussing Heidi's big news, you can just see the air go out of all of Lauren's tires, visibly.
I have to say, I was a little disappointed in her and how jealous she got. Like, she just shut down. And I don't know if it was because she got this cool internship and she liked that, and now she knew, like, oh, Heidi was going to get to go to all these parties, or I don't know what it was, but I'm like, really? You should be happy for her. But she was clearly jealous, and she's like, I want to go home because we have school early tomorrow. And she completely ignores Heidi jumping up and down and screaming, which admittedly was super annoying. But then she's like, I've got to go home.
I'm going to play devil's advocate here for a moment. By devil, I mean Lauren, so maybe more like angel's advocate. But imagine if you were Lauren and your friend was slacking at school, you're working hard at school, you got this amazing internship that everyone should be so excited about at Teen Vogue, your friend crashes your party that you're throwing for said internship, and then all of a sudden she stumbles into a bar, randomly chats up the guy who was at the door, and then suddenly has a job just like that with a snap of her fingers. So I think Lauren does a little bit of covering up her jealousy, but she doesn't try very hard. And you're right, she just totally shuts down and starts to pout.
No, I understand what you're saying, but you know what they say about karma?
Yeah.
And it will not be coming towards Lauren, but Heidi. Anyway, next we transition back to Hillside Villas, and Heidi doesn't want to get out of bed, and Lauren's trying to wake her, and I could go my whole life without seeing Jordan in bed next to Heidi.
Yeah, that was just disturbing to me on so many levels. These boys have got to go. I hope they're not in many more episodes. The fact that you told me they're on the DVD covers is really upsetting. I'm still recovering from that news, but I really need them to go soon.
I mean, I would have done a spoiler alert, but I assume anyone who is watching the show might have the DVDs too, or see their covers, so sorry if I ruined anything.
I don't think that it's a major spoiler alert. I don't think we're going to be run out of town by mobs with flaming pitchforks.
Nope. I hope not. Okay, then we transition to the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising, and the girls are going to their first day of class, and the first thing I noticed is that Lauren has a bag, a computer bag, and she's all ready for school, while Heidi has a small designer purse.
Yes, Heidi is definitely rocking her Louis purse and is very focused on it and how it is being carried and how she is carrying herself.
Heidi is already complaining about going to class. She doesn't want to go. Like, really, it is the first day of class. What is wrong with you? I don't know why she's already complaining. This is just, it kind of frustrated me, but whatever. Next, we transition to Brian and Jordan's apartment. Number 1, please clean up. Number 2, please get furniture. Number 3, put on shirts.
Put your shirts on. Guys, nobody wants to see that. You are not, I'm trying to think of someone who looks good shirtless. I don't know. You're not any of those people.
Let me think of someone random who has nothing whatsoever to do with the hills. How about, like, Brody Jenner?
Oh, hey. Spoiler alert, Brody Jenner.
Shocking.
So they're so hungover, it's painful to watch. Jordan literally is leaning forward trying to talk, or maybe Brian. I don't know. They're the same person. He's leaning forward, and his eyes just kind of cross, and his head starts dipping. It's kind of like when you're in school, and you're at the back of the class, and you have late night, and you kind of start to fade away a little bit, except he's doing that in his living room, on his couch, on camera, on a TV show, and he can barely say words. You can just see him just drifting off into another land. It's painful, and he should have at least, had a cup of coffee before the cameras started. That was awful.
And this is where we find out that Brian kind of has a crush on Audrina, and he's kind of like, let's get this going. Let's have dinner, the 4 of us, double date. Audrina's pretty, blah, blah, blah. Can we leave this apartment right now? Thank you. We go back to FIDM, and Heidi is walking really weird.
Heidi is extremely concerned with carrying her bag around campus and getting to a place where she can sit down and make a phone call, but she makes it look like an absolute obstacle course, like those races that people are doing these days, all those Tough Mudder type things where people crawl under tasers that are electrocuting them, and they run through fire and they jump over walls, except Heidi's just walking to a place to sit down and make a phone call. It is a very difficult process for her to make it.
And I'm like, does she not know how to wear high heels? Because that's also what it looked like to me. Like, she was having a hard time navigating in her heels. It was very weird.
I have some comments to make later in our show about this subject. So I will expound upon it further later. Stay in suspense for now.
And this is where Heidi tells Audrina, Brian likes you, blah, blah, blah. And Audrina's like, oh, he's sweet. And I'm thinking, no, he's not sweet. You didn't hear the threesome talk, but whatever. Heidi's definitely matchmaking, which I think she probably likes to do. What do you think?
I think so too, because remember earlier in the episode, the boys say something like, Heidi is the best person to hook up a couple. She'll just introduce anyone to anyone and tell them these are the greatest people to get together. Please note that Heidi calls Audrina at work again. Poor Audrina is just trying to do her job at her desk with her phone and her flowers and her receptionisting. And she has no time for Heidi to be calling and chatting about these stupid things. Audrina doesn't get excited about anything, by the way. I can't wait till the first time I see Audrina get excited. Will it ever happen?
I was about to say that never happens.
Okay.
I'm kidding. It does. Then we go into one of my favorite scenes, the student lounge, and Heidi is on her computer, and she won't let the girls sit next to her, and you can probably guess what was going through my mind.
You can't sit with us.
You can't sit here.
That says a lot about us, because I thought about Mean Girls, and you thought about Forrest Gump. That just says it all about the two of us. Heidi completely kicks this girl out of this chair in a very rude fashion, and she's playing solitaire, and I'm sure this girl's sitting here like, why is this person playing solitaire and telling me that the seat is taken? Seems like she's by herself, and she's a big liar. So way to go, Heidi, being rude as usual and making people feel unwanted and unloved, which will continue to be your legacy to the world. Just guessing, don't know, have no idea what's going to happen.
And then Lauren walks up, and she's like, how's your day been? And Heidi's like, yeah, pretty much I didn't go to any classes because 1, I hate art, 2, I couldn't find the building, so there's no use in me going, which is the worst excuses I've ever heard in my life. She is so ridiculous.
She's so lazy.
She just we should have known in the beginning of the day when she was already like, I don't want to go, that she was going to find an excuse to do what she eventually does by the end of the episode, which I won't spoil, even though I don't know why not, because you've already watched the episode.
Heidi's basically bragging about not going to class, and again, I mentioned this in our first episode, that there are a lot of people, or a person, or some people, that were out there telling Heidi that it is cute and funny to act dumb and to appear to be even lazier than you probably already are. Art is really lame, I believe was her direct quote about the art class. And then at that point, Elsie says, I'm going to work, and Heidi immediately responds with, I'm ready for a nap.
Because playing solitaire is so hard. Also, I love that Lauren was like, give it more than a day. And somehow I have a feeling that might come back. That just might be a phrase that is often uttered to Heidi. So then we transition to Heidi and Jordan going out to eat. They're talking about how exhausted they were about last night, and they make some really dumb, crude jokes that I won't repeat here because it was so annoying, and why would you say that stuff on camera? Only Heidi would. But anyway, I'm just going to skate over that because the least amount I can spend talking about that, the better.
Susan, can I please take a moment to have one of my special gem rants about a particular issue that occurred in this episode?
Absolutely.
Thank you. So there is a blatant use of the R word while the couple is walking to their alfresco lunch, and it definitely struck me. It's something that I always notice when people say, and it's very disappointing. If you don't know what I mean by the R word, well, then you better ask somebody. But seriously, you can check out the campaign to spread the word to end the word is the name of the campaign, and it is a national campaign encouraging people to stop using this word. It is very hurtful in everyday speech and dehumanizing to individuals with intellectual abilities. And rant.
Thank you, Jim. I will co-sign on that one. So Jordan and Heidi start discussing Heidi's hard day at school. That's what she tells Jordan, and all I could think was, your hard day in walking across the pathways of school when you couldn't hold your designer bag and walk on your high heels, or when you were playing solitaire. And Jordan had some wonderful advice. I mean, this Jordan is a gem. His advice? Quit. That's what he says. Quit.
School's not for everyone. And he's like, I'm not in.
It was great.
It was great.
So then we go back to the Hillside Villas, and there's this super awkward conversation when Heidi announces to Lauren that she is going to quit school if she gets this job with Brent. after they have this discussion about, Lauren's like, I always wear sweats to class. And she's like, I'm not going to class. I have a job interview. And she said, it's during class. And I'm like, didn't you know you had class when you set up the interview? And honestly, I think she was telling a story. From the look on her face, she just didn't want to go to class.
Telling a story using the definition of our Southern friends, she's telling a story, aka she's a big fat liar. But there was an enjoyable moment in the scene that I loved. Heidi continued to eat cinnamon raisin toast incessantly throughout this entire scene, and I got really excited and wanted to go to the store and buy some and make some for myself because it looked delicious.
And I actually want to discuss Heidi's eating habits starting in season 2, but won't do it right now.
You've intrigued me, Susan.
Did you notice Lauren's crushed velvet top?
No.
Oh, man, it was like, I guess it was part of her workout clothes she was talking about, or her sweats that she wore to class. It was like crushed velvet, and that was so of the time. I enjoyed it so much.
There was breaking news a couple of days ago. I believe it was Elle magazine. I saw kind of like a post on Facebook and talking about how Juicy Couture sweatsuits are coming back. There's a person who I will not name in my life who actually loves those and still owns them. So I immediately posted it on my Facebook wall and tagged her and a friend of ours who makes fun of her about it. And we just had a big laugh about how they're actually coming back. So I totally didn't even notice that's what Lauren was wearing, probably because I was looking at Heidi's toast.
So now we go into the Teen Vogue offices with Lauren and Whitney, and Lauren is filling Whitney in about how Heidi wants to quit school, and Lauren is being slightly catty about it, which I think is deservedly so. I really do. And Whitney is just so sweet. She's like, well, maybe that's the best thing for her. She's like trying to smooth it over, but Lauren is having none of it. She's very upset about this. She said this is the whole reason why Heidi moved here. She moved here so we could go to school together. I think she might sense that Heidi's pulling away a little, and it's upsetting her because they're such good friends when they met in San Francisco, and now like their paths seem to be diverging. So I think that has a lot to do with it too, not just, oh, Lauren's so jealous that Heidi has this great job opportunity. I think she sees that there's going to be some distance, and she just wants to have fun with her and go to class.
Which has never happened between any roommates in any apartment ever in the history of all time.
This is so true. Do we have 2 hours to talk about the horrible roommates you have had?
Oh, no. We'll do a separate podcast for that, and I'll think of a really fun name for it, and we'll have our own song for that and everything. It would be great. And did you notice Lauren also was trying not to cry earlier in the apartment when Heidi was telling her she would drop out if she got the job? And then in this scene, Lauren is kind of laughing about how Heidi's so bad at interviews, but it's kind of like her hurt is coming out in that mockery of how bad Heidi is at interviews, and she doesn't spin herself very well when she's being interviewed. It's definitely Lauren's, hurt feelings coming out as her trying to make it look like a joke.
Yeah. Also, I have a question for you. What in the world do Whitney and Lauren do at Teen Vogue? Because I feel like every time we see them, all they're doing is like moving clothes in a rack. Like, and by moving, I mean pushing them. I want to know, like, what are they actually doing every day? Are they just sitting there waiting for work to come? Are they busy work? Are they getting coffees? Of course, we're not seeing any of that stuff. I understand that. But I'm like, I want to know what they're actually doing. Obviously, they do stuff later. But I mean, right now, I'm just like, all they do is push clothes back and forth on the racks. And who knows, maybe that's what they told them to do while the cameras were in there. Oh, don't move anywhere else but here. So it's just for the camera shots. I don't know. But I'm always like, I wonder what they're doing.
Yeah, that's one of those things where if it wasn't in your Us Weekly, we may never know.
And it was not in my Us Weekly, so I will never know.
Ugh, it's so frustrating.
So let's go to Bolt House.
The highlight of the entire episode is this scene.
It is amazing. Amazing.
Brent Bolthouse is too cool for school with his 2006 hair and his blank stare of boredom. He could not be more over life in every moment of this scene. He is so bored to death. He's so fabulous. He's so exhausted, and he's so important. He can't possibly be bothered to be an entire scene on this MTV reality show with a stupid young girl that he has hired, or that he is interviewing. Excuse me. Whoops. I think I just ruined it. Oh, no.
Can we talk about Heidi's interview outfit?
Her weird sleeveless sweater, boot, jean thing?
Dark blue jeans.
Yeah.
White, fuzzy, sleeveless shirt with cowl turtleneck thingy?
Ugh.
And boots. Okay, first of all, I understand LA is probably different from where we are now. However, you don't wear jeans to an interview. Am I wrong in saying that? Like, no matter where you're interviewing, you're not supposed to wear jeans.
No, and especially if you think, like Heidi thought, that she's getting into this fabulous, club life, party promoter type thing, you would think that she would have worn maybe something a little bit trendier, maybe like a dress with some heels, nothing dressy, but just kind of something more, fun and cute. But she was almost kind of dressed up like a mom.
Well, I just don't think it was an appropriate interview outfit, and it wasn't even that cute, even for that time. I'm like, was it even fashionable? I don't know. I just was like, that is not what she should be wearing, like a dress and heels.
Agreed.
It just hit me the wrong way. But you're right about Brent. I actually thought it was hilarious. He was like, oh, hold on just a minute, which, by the way, Lisa also did in her interview, so it just must be a thing. It's a power play, I guess.
Oh, totally. They're trying to show that they're very busy and important. And though the cameras may be rolling, they're still in charge and have their places in life. I love when Brent says, I hate drama. And I pauses and says, yeah, that's good to hear. And it's the least amount of energy in any two-way conversation ever in history of the United States of America.
And I wanted to say, Brent, if you hate drama, you are barking up the wrong tree because you're about to get a barrel full of it. A barrel full is also one of our Southern sayings.
He's about to get more drama than a barrel full of monkeys. I think that's fun, but whatever.
By the way, did you hear Heidi say she was hardworking?
Yeah, lies.
Earlier when Lauren said you're supposed to lie in interviews, she didn't know that Heidi actually did, when she said she was hardworking.
Well, she just left off the last part that was on my tan at the pool.
And all I have to say about this is I thought Lauren's interview with Lisa was super awkward. I think this was more awkward.
Yeah, Lauren was trying really hard, and she's very earnest in her interview with Lisa, and she tried to follow along, even though, remember, it was an ambush interview. She wasn't quite ready for it. Whereas Heidi had plenty of time to prepare for this and said all of the ridiculous things that you can ever say.
So Heidi gets the job, and she leaves, and on the street outside Bolt House, she calls Lauren to tell her she has the job.
The number one event promotion and PR firm, and I got it. It's not like your job, is what she says pointedly to Lauren.
So rude.
I got a salary. Rude.
So Jem, is the resident business person here, wouldn't you say that getting a salary means you're working full time?
Susan, I would say that that's what it means. Probably something like 5 days a week, maybe even hours like 9 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Interesting. Anyway, so Lauren is not happy that Heidi got the job and she's quitting school at all. In fact, she's so upset. She does something very, I would do the same thing, let's be honest. But she hangs up on Heidi.
This is after Heidi says, I get a lunch break, and Lauren says, a real lunch break? And that's when the flip phone snaps closed.
And it was the most sarcastic or real lunch break ever. It was hilarious. But then it was funny because Heidi calls back, like, oh, it was such an accident. And then she doesn't answer, and she goes trotting off down the street, wiggling her rear end. And she goes off into the sunset, and she's ready to start her fabulous new job at Bolt House. She's so excited about all the parties she's going to go to, and you can just see she is so excited for this job.
And don't forget that Whitney and Lauren are in the office singing Fashion School Dropout.
That was amazing. I laughed so hard. I thought that was hilarious. What did you think about it?
I think maybe to me that was kind of a special moment because maybe that's when they first really bonded for the initial time, and you can kind of see that they're going to be friends moving forward. I kind of liked it. They're bonding over their dislike of another person. Imagine that happening.
Jem, I need more Whitney. Where is more Whitney?
No, I love her so much. I just wish that down the road she would even have her own show.
That would be amazing.
That would be crazy, though. So, Susan, I have disappointing news about this episode. There was not one instance of Heidi for me to count. I was devastated. I know that there'll be more chances, but I really did think that we were going to see more of that in future episodes. So I can only hope that season 1, episode 3 will include a little bit more Heidi from Lauren.
Fingers crossed.
Heidi count is at 0 for this episode.
Jem
and Susan's
funniest moments.
Jem, what do you think was the funniest moment?
I teased a little bit earlier that I was going to be discussing more about this, but Heidi's walking is hilarious because somebody told her to walk in the manner in which she walks. They told her to swing her hips and wobble on her high heels and wiggle her butt when she walks. And it just comes off as hilarious and disingenuous. She bumps into something when she's going to sit down to make that call to Audrina earlier at the school. I described it as kind of an obstacle course earlier, and it is just beyond funny to watch her try to navigate the world whilst using her special walk. And even when she's going up to her interview at Bolt House, she does the thing where she puts her arms down by her sides, flips out her wrists, and then kind of runs up on tippy toes up the stairs. And she's thinking, I just look so adorable running up these stairs, and it's so painful, and you just want to go back in time and grab her and be like, girl, just walk like a human and you're all good.
I think the funniest moment for me was a simple moment, but it made me laugh so hard, and that's when the screen revealed that she was playing solitaire on her computer, and there was just something so funny about it. It just made me laugh. I'm like, you are the biggest slacker. Oh my God. But I thought it was hilarious, and that is my funniest.
Question for you, Susan. I know that people still do that and it's still on your computer and all that. What would be the 2016 version of sitting by yourself, skipping class, doing something on your computer / smartphone that is super brainless? Would she be watching Snapchat stories in that chair, or would that have been reading her Facebook feed? What do you think would be the modern version of what Heidi was doing when she was sitting there being a bump on a log?
Twitter.
She was reading Twitter. Winners of the week.
Jem, who do you think was the winner of the episode?
100% the winner of this episode was Whitney Port, because she did not get tattled on by Lauren. She got off scot-free and was so grateful to Lauren when they talked about it later. And she could have gotten in huge trouble with Lisa if Lauren had gotten to that point. So to me, Whitney was a clear winner in this episode.
Well, I think the winner of this episode was Heidi. She got a new job. She laid out at the pool. She didn't go to class. She decided to drop out of school. So I guess she won her life for the moment.
For now.
Does this episode of The Hills pass the Bechdel test?
Susan, the Bechdel test originates in the 80s, and again, I encourage everyone to check out the history of the cartoon that spawned this idea. It asks 3 questions of films, which we will apply to this television show. First question, are there at least 2 named women in the episode?
Yes, ma'am.
Second question, do they talk to each other?
Indeed.
And the third question is, when they speak to each other, is it about something other than a man?
Actually, yes it is.
Woo!
Woohoo! Good job.
Well done, The Hills 10 years ago.
You passed the Bechdel test. We're going to see how long that can carry through. Thanks for listening to Words Unspoken, The Hills podcast. Here's the scoop on all of the many ways you can contact us. We'd love to hear your feedback and ideas for the show.
You can email us at wordsunspokenpodcast@gmail.com.
You can find us on Twitter at The Hills Podcast and Instagram and Facebook at Words Unspoken Podcast.
We are even on Tumblr, which definitely did not exist when The Hills first aired. And you can also visit our website, wordsunspokenpodcast.com.
Please subscribe, rate, and review us on iTunes. We are also available on Stitcher, Google Play, and SoundCloud.
We'll talk to you next Friday.
Bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.
You and all your pretty little friends up in the hills where the party never ends. Your schemes and your dreams when you're whole and you're broken. I'm telling all about it in my words unspoken.
Hi.
Yes.
We're doing terrible tonight. Okay.
No, we're not.